We will now dive a bit deeper into the questions that were already part of the panel just now. Because Emily Hancock is joining us, and she will be speaking about solving the privacy challenges of AI innovation. So it kind of, goes very, very well with what we've just discussed. Emily is the Chief Privacy Officer and Senior Director at Cloudflare. Emily, thank you for taking the time, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rebecca. As Rebecca mentioned, I'm Emily Hancock, Chief Privacy Officer at Cloudflare. I'm thrilled and honored to be joining you back at BitCom this year for my third year. And the last couple of years, I've talked to this group about topics related to cross-border data transfer flows. But thanks to the EU-US privacy framework, there's zero issues with cross-border data flows now, right? I'm kidding, of course. There's already one legal challenge to the DPF, and I'm sure it won't be the last. And there continues to be a focus on data localization in other arenas. In the cybersecurity space, for example, countries have pushed for sovereignty requirements or localization of data for political reasons, even when that means their businesses will be less protected from cyber attack. But as the title of my speech suggests, that is not what I'm going to talk to you about today. I thought I'd talk about this little thing called AI. Just when we thought we might get a bit of a break, we as privacy professionals would get a bit of a break and be able to take some long-deserved vacations after the intense cross-border data transfer battles we saw over the last couple of years, ChatGPT and its friends burst onto the scene. Suddenly, AI is everywhere, and it feels like it's all anyone is talking about, including apparently me. From the big philosophical questions about the ethics of facial recognition, deepfakes, and more, to the routine questions I know I'm getting frequently, and I'm sure you are too, how can we enable the use of AI now to make our organizations better, faster, and more efficient? For example, I'm sure I'm not the only person here who gets questions from sales or marketing teams about how to use AI to make communications with customers and prospects more readable and interesting, or questions from customers who want to know if we'll be using their data that we process on their behalf to train AI models. The answer to that is no, by the way. Or we get questions from finance teams about how AI can help detect and reduce payment fraud. Or maybe it's about how we can incorporate chatbots into customer service platforms. You name it, someone probably wants to use AI for it. And just as some regulators want to lock down personal data from cross-border data transfers because they fear the risk of the unknown of what might happen when their data leaves their jurisdiction, some regulators' initial reactions to AI seem to be following a similar playbook. There are so many privacy dangers from AI, the thinking goes. We should just prohibit it, lock it down. Now, to be honest, it's a pretty natural reaction. On the face of it, AI can be pretty scary. The idea that someone could take this speech and use it to create a deepfake video using my voice and image to make it look and sound like I've said or done something I haven't, that's super troubling. But even without going to that extreme, the more run-of-the-mill generative AI technologies, and let's just let that sink in for a minute. What's a run-of-the-mill generative AI technology? But the fact that these still exist can present a number of privacy challenges. So before jumping into those challenges, let's make sure we all know what we mean when we talk about AI, because it is a pretty broad range of technologies. One type of AI is what I like to think of as the old style of AI. This would be predictive AI, algorithms that train themselves to get smarter over time and make predictions based on large amounts of data. Cloudflare uses this kind of AI a lot for doing things like training our bot mitigation products on how to recognize new threats, for example. But the AI we're talking about so much these days is a different animal. It applies deep learning techniques based on the structures of the human brain to create something entirely new from the piece of information you gave it. And unlike with predictive AI, you can communicate with this new AI in your natural language. No coding or data science skills involved. What's more, it can not only create text outputs, but also images, music, and even computer code. So when we're talking about the privacy dangers of AI, we're usually talking about this generative AI, AI that can produce new content based on a vast training library of data, such as large language models or LLM. Now, in order to talk about generative AI, it's also useful to understand two of its key components, training and inference. Now, I'm a lawyer, not an engineer, So if you want to really deep dive into how this generative AI works, this is not the talk you're looking for. But at a high level, it's useful to understand what training and inference mean. In order for generative AI to work, a model has to be trained. This means the model has to be fed massively large data sets, hence the large in large language models. So it can then learn and generalize from patterns within the data. The model then learns the underlying patterns to generate new data that mirrors the training set. Once a model is trained, it can then be used for inference. This means random data can be fed into the trained model, and the model can process this input through its learned parameters and then generate new data samples that resemble the patterns observed through training. So if we think of ChatGPT, ChatGPT first had to be trained to be able to understand how words and ideas fit together, so it could respond intelligently to question prompts. Okay, so now that we understand a little bit about what AI is, let's talk about why it raises so many privacy concerns. And of course, for this task, naturally, I asked ChatGPT why ChatGPT, is so problematic from a privacy perspective. And that is one of the really lovely things about AI. ChatGPT didn't get defensive when I asked it to tell me everything that's wrong with it. So, what does ChatGPT say is dangerous about it from a privacy perspective? Well, first, as I just mentioned, it says that because AI systems require large amounts of data to function effectively, the collection and storage of this data raises concerns about how personal and sensitive information is handled, stored, and shared. What happens when personal data is fed into an LLM, for example? Is there any way to get it out? The answer for now appears to be no. Now, ChatGPT said that one of the second risks is with the increase in data collection, there's a higher risk of data breaches. If an AI system is not properly secured, the data it uses and generates can be vulnerable to malicious attacks, which leads to privacy violation. But I suppose if we were able to find a way to mitigate risk number one, then the risk of harm from a security breach would go down as well. ChatGPT then told me that a third risk is that with the rapid advancement of AI technology, that's often outpacing the development of adequate regulations and standards. So this lack of a regulatory framework can lead to inconsistent privacy practices and insufficient protection for individuals. Now, that seems like a pretty fair issue to flag. Data regulators around the globe are really concerned about technology running away with our personal data and the risk that once the genie is out of the bottle, we won't be able to put it back in. But maybe we shouldn't be so quick to regulate. More on that in a minute. Okay, now ChatGPT's list was actually a bit longer and included a few more privacy risks like facial recognition challenges, algorithmic bias, and more. But for the purposes of this talk, I want to focus on the privacy risks to personal data due to the way that generative AI needs to collect and train on large amounts of personal data. And that's where there's some good news. There's some pretty cool technologies that can help us keep a close check on this pretty cool AI technology. There are, in fact, privacy-enhancing technologies that can help us use AI in privacy-preserving ways. And we at Cloudflare are working on some of these privacy-enhancing technologies for AI right now. Now, if you don't know about Cloudflare, let me tell you a little bit about this. Cloudflare sits between end users and websites to provide application layer security, performance, and reliability services. We also provide security services for corporate networks to help guard against security threats from phishing, malware, and other things that we have to worry about. Many of the services we offer, such as bot mitigation, rely on predictive AI using algorithms that learn and evolve as we identify new attack types. With generative AI, one of the things Cloudflare is investing a lot of time thinking about is how to keep personal or other sensitive data out of those generative AI training models. So 2 weeks ago was Cloudflare's birthday week. Historically, Cloudflare uses the week of our birthday, we just turned 13, to launch products that we think of as our gift back to the internet. This year, we use the occasion of our birthday to announce some privacy-preserving technologies that can help developers make use of innovative AI technology without sacrificing the privacy of their users' data. One of the announcements I'm most excited about is our Beta AI Gateway. Now, the idea here for the AI gateway is it sits between your application and the AI APIs that your application makes requests to, like ChatGPT. And that allows us to cache responses, limit and retry requests, and provide analytics that will help you monitor and track your usage. But more exciting for data privacy is that we're working on developing AI Gateway into a product that helps organizations regulate how their data is used with generative AI applications. By setting up our AI Gateway, you can configure all requests to a generative AI application to pass through Cloudflare first, so that you can log user requests, apply access policies, enable rate limiting, and data loss prevention strategies. For example, if one of your employees accidentally pastes an API key into ChatGPT, AI Gateway can be configured to see that outgoing request and redact the API key or block the request entirely, preventing it from ever reaching ChatGPT or any end providers. We can also log and alert on suspicious requests so that your organization can proactively investigate and control certain types of activities. This helps organizations protect trade secrets and their personal data from getting sucked into generative AI training models. In this way, AI Gateway becomes a really powerful tool for organizations that might be excited about the efficiencies AI unlocks, but hesitant about trusting AI when data privacy and user error are really critical threats. Now, another example of using AI to protect against AI privacy threats is something that we've developed to help users choose specific categories of bots that they want to allow or block, including AI crawlers. As the popularity of generative AI has grown, content creators and policymakers around the world have started to ask questions about what data AI companies are using to train their models without permission. As with all new innovative technologies, laws will likely need to evolve to address different parties' interests and what's best for society at large. And while we don't know how it will shake out, we do believe that website operators should have an easy way to block unwanted AI crawlers and to also let AI bots know when they are permitted to crawl their websites. So Cloudflare already automatically stops scraper bots today as part of our bot fight mode, super bot fight mode, and bot management products. But we wanted to make it even easier for customers to make sure they're protected too. We wanted to make it easier to see how frequently AI scrapers might be visiting their sites and to respond to them in more targeted ways. We also recognize that not all AI crawlers are the same, and some AI companies are looking for clear instructions for when they should not crawl a public website, such as one that contains lots of personal data. Today, the most common use of a web crawler is for a search engine, such as Google's Googlebot. While search engine crawler operations are generally beneficial for site owners so they can get their sites discovered, there are bot operators that use similar techniques for more malicious purposes. The techniques deployed by AI crawlers are no different. Just like a search engine crawler, they'll parse HTML content and follow extracted URLs to gather information, which could be any matter of personal information, including images, off of websites. And then they'll use that information as training data for their AI models. Suddenly, that picture of you and your family is sucked into an AI model's training data set, and there's not much you can do to get it out again. So we've developed ways to identify both good and bad crawlers using various systems, such as attack signature matching, heuristics, our own machine learning, and behavioral analysis. And along with our bot detection tools, we also have a verified bot directory that allows responsible and necessary bots like Googlebot to register. We want to encourage good behavior by AI crawlers as well. So we've developed a set of criteria that will allow us to tag respectful AI bots differently. Now, developing the AI gateway and figuring out ways to prevent bad AI bots from crawling websites that might hold personal information that you don't want to have used for training an AI model, those are just a couple of solutions Cloudflare is pursuing to address privacy concerns raised by generative AI. But of course, we're not the only ones who are thinking about this and thinking about ways privacy-enhancing technologies can keep personal data safe. And there's also a number of people thinking about the way that generative AI tools can be privacy-enhancing technologies themselves. So, for example, researchers and others are looking at how generative AI models can be used to generate synthetic data It resembles real data, but it contains no personal data. That means researchers and companies can use synthetic data for testing and development without risking the exposure of private information. And in this way, generative AI itself is privacy enhancing. Another way that privacy enhancing technology can make generative AI better and more useful is the emerging technology that combines federated learning and homomorphic encryption techniques with generative AI to ensure that the models are trained on decentralized encrypted data. This means the raw data never leaves the user's device, which can enhance privacy. Now, there's still ways to go to make federated learning and homomorphic encryption techniques usable in the mainstream, but these are really promising applications for privacy. And then, as I mentioned, when I was discussing Cloudflare's AI Gateway project, there are ways to place ours or other organizations' data loss prevention tools between data sets and AI models to detect and strip away whatever data elements you might be worried about: names, credit card numbers, identification numbers, and so on. And if you're considering using a generative AI vendor, make sure you ask them what they do to prevent personal data or other sensitive information from being gathered by their training models when you use their product. But if regulators, in the name of privacy protection, are too quick to lock down the ways in which generative AI can be used, we risk losing the ability to capitalize on privacy-enhancing AI technologies that can actually allow for privacy-first use of AI innovation. So in closing, I don't know about you, but when I first started thinking about the privacy issues raised by generative AI, I definitely first had a gut reaction along the lines of, this is bad, we shouldn't use it. And I sometimes wonder if that's how people reacted when they first saw cars on the road. Cars were loud and dangerous and unpredictable, no match for a reliable, relatable horse and buggy. You can understand how a horse works. But in the late 1800s and early 1900s, unless you're a mechanic or an engineer, you didn't know how those newfangled car engines worked. Better to just make them go away. But quickly, people realized that the efficiencies created by motorized vehicles were a lot. And people introduced technologies to improve the safety of cars: seat belts, headlamps, turn signals, brake lights, blind spot detection, on and on. But many of the best improvements took decades to develop and roll out to the mainstream. With AI, we don't have to wait that long. We have technologies now that help us adopt privacy protective AI in the near term, technologies that will help us take advantage of AI innovation while still protecting the privacy of our personal data. And we're only developing more and more as time goes on, and the pace of development, unlike with cars, is pretty fast. So I'm excited to see what more there is to come, including all of the ways we'll be able to address privacy challenges of AI by using AI. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Emily, for this great overview and for giving us all a few tips on how to approach this very complex issue, and also showing that it's possible to find solutions, especially combining the whole issue with data security.